Hey, what's up, y'all? I wanted to do this video because as we're moving into 2025, a lot of you guys have come to me and asked me different questions in regards to housing. Like, oh, my lease is going to be up. I need to find a place, or hey, I really want to buy a house. So if you're one of those individuals that are renting, where you live right now and you want to truly own your property next year, this video is for you. So a lot of people really have been experiencing it, especially since COVID, the difference in regarding housing, like from interest rates to requirements to be approved to rent now, whether it's a house or it's an apartment. The requirements to rent are now in 2024 very equal to the requirements for you to buy and own your own property. And that's due to the fact of how COVID impacted both landlords and homeowners as well as renters. Like everybody was impacted by that. So it really kind of changed the dynamics of renting. So for you guys that are renting right now, the economy is changing. Inflation is real. I always tell the students and the kids that I teach about financial literacy that you can tell when it's inflation is happening is when you go to a fast food restaurant and your go-to, that number two large with a Coke or a Sprite, it's doing up. Like it used to be 9.50, now it's 10.02. You know what I'm saying? Like, 10.15, 10.30, 10.99. Like, over the years you'll see that your fast food is going up. That's when inflation is happening, obviously with your groceries. So as we move forward in 2025, guys, it's really your financial situation can change. And if you don't have good credit, which is a way for any type of lender or someone that you need resources to kind of know that, like, hey, you're good with money, or they can trust how you operate your finances. You can be in a situation where you have money, but your credit is bad and no one wants to rent. No one wants you to rent from them. Like they don't want to take on the risk, or you got to rent in the hood, or you got to rent in a spot where you really don't want to rent, but you got to stay here, even though you work a 9 to 5 and you have income. Like the requirements are changing. And so if you are a person that in the next, like this upcoming year, your lease is coming up and your landlord might go up on the rent. You know what I mean? Like it's no rent control when you're renting from someone. And, if you're one of those people, like you might be in a situation where if you're not financially prepared, or your financial structure is not together, you can easily be displaced, like really struggling to find a spot because no one wants to rent for you, or you're going to settle for a place that you really don't want to be. It might be unsafe. It can be a variety of different things. So I wanted to do this video to kind of give you guys some insights and the benefits of owning, or, if you truly want to own your own property, like what's the benefits compared to renting? Because some people might say, well, if I own my property, I might have these other issues. Like, yeah, but it's your property. And that's one of the things that is so beneficial. Guys, the requirements to buy a property is you have to have good credit, you have to have steady income, and you need to be able to prove, have some tax returns to show that you consistently been making this money. The good credit and your debt to income ratio. So you can't be like, oh, I make this much money, but I got all this credit card debt, or I have all these car loans, all these different type of debts. So those are the factors in owning a property. When you go to rent an apartment, what they want to know credit. They want to see your background check. They want to make sure that you haven't been evicted before, or they're worried about that. And then, there's a lot of things that go along with that process with renting that, like, you got to put a security deposit. You might not get that security deposit back. Y'all know how that works. So once you really start understanding the advantages of owning a property, it's much different because there's benefits to owning a property, such as like, okay, I know what my mortgage is going to be. My rent now is a mortgage, and I know how much it's going to be. It's not going to change unless my taxes change, right? But it's not going to be significant, right? I know what that's going to be. You know, you might have escrow issues, and we'll do trainings on what that means. It's, again, like your taxes and insurance might change for that year, so it might increase your mortgage. But it's not like, you know, this year I paid $1,200 a month, and then next year I got to pay $1,300 because they done went up on the rent. Like, and every month, you know, guys, as long as I've been learning about real estate and doing real estate investing and learning from different experts myself, rent has never went down. Like, rent always goes up. So you don't really have any rent control when you rent from someone. But when you own a property, you have some level of rent control. Okay. The second thing, one of the most important elements about owning a property is that property can now be passed on as a legacy and inheritance. So now I can go and, let's say something happens to you and you have these 3 kids, right? You have these 3 kids, something happens to you. Well, that property is going to pass down to the kids. Like, they'll be able to either keep that property or sell that property to have money to take care of themselves. Like, you know, I know people that buy real estate for the sole purposes of in case something happens to them, that property is going to take care of their kids. It's rental income, right? Because people still need to pay rent, right? If you need housing. But now you've passed on this income system that is brick and mortar. You know, that property is going to be there longer than your life. And you can pass that down to your kids. I'm talking about, like, you know, monthly income, like I said, the benefit of being able to sell that property, housing. Like, there's so much advantages of being able to pass down an asset and a legacy as your own property to your kids or your loved ones. So that's the second, like, biggest advantage of owning versus renting property. Now, this third one is kind of hidden because most people don't really like to discuss this, but, like, in reality, this has happened to a lot of people. Okay. If you're renting and you get behind on your rent, you get an eviction notice and your ass got to move. And you can go to court, you can do a variety of different things, but eventually you have to move, and you mess up your credit because now you can get an eviction notice on your record. So that's hard. Like, now everyone knows that that you're looking for, anytime you move for an apartment, they know that you've been evicted and you went to court for this particular purpose. So you don't necessarily, that's a terrible thing to happen. But again, in today's times, since COVID, your finances can change. Like, people have gone through resets, have failed at things, life has happened to them. Shit, that's happened to me. So, you know, in 2020, when I lost my mom and my dad, it was a lot of things that had to reset in my life, and a lot of things that, like, financially changed everything, my trajectory. And I realized at this point in time, like, how I needed to be prepared moving forward, because I wasn't prepared for those things. Like, my parents died 45 days apart, and I'm only child, man. And then that shit was crazy during COVID, you know. And I dedicated time to take care of my mom, maybe a year and a half before she passed away. So I really wasn't, like, really focused in on my businesses and different things because I'm taking care of my mom, you know. So it really made me realize, like, my God, like, I needed to have more real estate assets at the time. Like, I needed to have more rental property. I needed to have more this, like, just understanding things that I needed to have so that I can make money while I'm not there. And the benefits, guys, of, like, knowing that, okay, if I'm renting and I go through some type of financial struggle, yo, I'm going to get evicted. There's a certain, like, I might have like 60 days maybe to get out of there. They're going to give you a 30-day notice. So they want you out in 30 days, but you might be able to do 60. You might But in certain cities and certain states, you can't. You're out. If you own a property and you get behind, you're going to get pre-foreclosure papers. Like the bank's going to let you know, like, hey, you're behind. Is it, we can't, but like, you know, when can we talk to you about making some type of payment arrangements? They're going to start reaching out to you to try to come up with a solution for you to keep your property. And this is one of the things that a lot of people don't know. Banks are not in the business of wanting to take your property. Like, okay, I know it's a lot of predatory shit that the banks do, but they're not really in the business of like holding your property. They don't really want to hold your property because they don't make money unless you're paying back on the loan. So they want to give you every opportunity to keep your property. Now, this becomes really important, y'all, because this comes back to like what happened in 08. Like, I didn't know shit about real estate during that time. I was in college. Only thing I knew about the recession was some of the stores downtown were closing. So I didn't know anything about the market crashing. But as I've gotten to real estate and learned about it in the last 10 years, I've really learned like how the banks changed their business practices to actually help the consumers, us landlords and people that own property. So if you get behind on your mortgage, they're going to reach out to you to try to offer you mortgage assistance, which is an opportunity for them to like refinance your loan and give you a fresh start. And it kind of gives you a window of time. They're going to tell you, hey, listen, we're going to have these payments. Can you make these payments, 3 on-time payments this time? And they kind of give you a couple of options on being able to keep your property. And then, you know, if things get worse, foreclosures, depending on what city and depending on what state you're in and what bank it is, some foreclosures might take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to actually for them to foreclose on a property. Like the time frame varies based off the bank and based off of you being able to go to a judge, because that's going to go to a judge. You're still going to go to court somehow, right? But owning a property, you can go and tell them what you're going through and you're trying to do this and you're trying to do this, and it will give you more time. So just that, like in itself, which is a really bad worst case scenario, but you're able to guys to see the difference between renting versus owning. Those are significant differences. So I hope this video is giving you guys some value. If you guys have any more questions about renting or owning, you want to plan, please give me a call.